Yeah, what's up, my people? You already know who it is. It's your boy Prophet Pete from the city that never sleeps, and you tuned in to the Prophet Radio Show and why, man, where we talk about money, life, love, and music. And I just want to shout out. I know it's after Father's Day, right? But we got a lot of things that happened this particular week. We had Juneteenth, we have Father's Day, and I think it's one of those situations where we're just celebrating the black man in all their greatness. Now I know a lot of times, the way society depicts the black father is not necessarily at the highest point of the pedestal, but I want society to understand that the black fathers out there are definitely doing better, and it just because it's not in mainstream media, or it's not in the neighborhoods that are not accustomed to it. It does actually happen. There's a lot more fathers stepping up, taking care of their kids, while mothers are stepping away. So I think that that's something that we should definitely, you know, give a shout out to all the fathers out there, all the stepdads, all the men stepping up in their communities and raising those kids or providing that information to help those kids that are around them grow to that next level. So definitely got a dope guest for tonight. We got SoulRacs in the building. We definitely going to chop it up. And I think a lot of the stuff that he composes his music about definitely highlights a lot of the things that we let fall wayside, or that mainstream media, the news, actually just, tries to cover up and don't bring to the forefront. So without further ado, we definitely going to chop it up with my man SoulRac. What's good,
Yeah.
my guy?
What's good, my dude? We good, man. Yo, Prophet Pete, is always a pleasure being with you and, Williams Radio. And like you said, salute to all the fathers and Juneteenth. Both of them are important events and experiences, and we definitely want to make sure they are acknowledged.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? That it took this long, right, for
Mm-hmm.
Juneteenth to become federally, a federal holiday where it's federally observed. And I think that's just bizarre because not for nothing, and I'm gonna keep it 100% honest.
Oh, yeah, keep it a
I
buck.
didn't I didn't even know about Juneteenth until like last year. I'm
Yeah,
like, Juneteenth, what's that? What are you
yeah,
talking about?
yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of things that are hidden from us that we find out either through our own research or we just happen to see it on social media. Thirdly, it can come from a person that we're connected to that's into that arena. But I started finding out about Juneteenth probably about 2 years ago, as I was learning and researching and everything like that, because I never knew about it as well. Being from the South, you're not privy to a lot of information unless you know people that's connected to it, or you're kind of in that circle. And so being in that circle, I've been learning a lot from some of the people that I'm connected to.
Yeah, and you know, it's it's wild. I don't understand it. I guess it's a form of control or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is to keep those things out of mainstream media, or it easily being accessible, right?
Yeah.
Because unless you said you learned about Juneteenth from individuals that were in that arena,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know, and it's like, but what happens if you didn't come across those individuals? You still would have had known until Friday when it was like, yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
it got signed in as a federal
Absolutely.
holiday,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Then it's Google, and now you're Googling everything. You're like,
Yeah.
what the?
That's how it normally happens. The light turns on, and then you're like, "Oh, I didn't know about that." Now you get that hunger for it. You start looking for it. One of the hottest things, I don't think it's a debate, but it has been debated, is the idea of critical race theory (CRT), because now people want to, we're encouraging Black history be taught in school because it hasn't been. Like they say, his story, not ours. We've been learning his story for years, and so now CRT, which is more the concept. I don't advocate the name. I'm just using it because that's the more popular term that's used. But ideally, it's dealing with the including the black perspective in American history, which is being hardly fought by those who are opponents of it. And so we're dealing with that now, because now we want kids to understand the full scope, not the scope that we've been learning through our time in school, but get the full story and understand the achievements of Black Americans and people that made a contribution to the overall structure of America, because we have made a contribution, but it's been muted for a long time. And now it's coming to the forefront. And Juneteenth, I meant to say, is one of those things that we're bringing to the forefront.
And I'm super happy that, we're fighting for us to be, our history to be put in books,
Absolutely,
to be taught in schools.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I've seen this movie before. I don't know if you've seen it or not.
Okay.
Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not more. It has nothing to do with, Black history or anything like that, but it has to do with the erasing of books and what's written in books.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then as we do that, we're able to control the minds of our future, our children's
Mm-hmm.
children's, because if you get rid of books and everything is online and everything is digital, it is very easy
Mm-hmm.
to alter what is being said.
Absolutely.
When you get a hard copy of a book, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, you're saying that, but hey, look, this book that was published 100 years ago is
Mm-hmm.
saying this.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It can be easily manipulated, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Very easily manipulated. And I think that's very scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's very scary. And, remember, many, many years ago, we wasn't even allowed to read. But now they're making sure that what's in these books does not depict what we've been through. And as you said, us
Mm-hmm.
being muted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you, because, the main thing is what part of the reason we not only were we prevented from reading, but we also were prevented access to things where we could read and we could become educated, and then that light turned on. And so education is the key. That's why, even though the school system is in place and does provide an environment for learning, it is our challenge. It is our challenge, and it's our duty as parents that we take that time to educate our kids and let them learn the things that they're not getting in school. Because I think sometimes we do rely on the school heavily. Not saying they don't serve a purpose, they do, because that's what our tax dollars go towards, providing them a platform where they can do it, which, we have a whole nother conversation on that. I think teachers should get paid a lot more money. I don't think a CEO should make more than a teacher or a fireman police officer, but that's another conversation. But in this conversation, it's definitely important that the parents are involved and making sure, hey, is my son and my daughter learning this? And if they're not getting the education they need, then we need to either encourage the school, or we also need to do it at home as well. That way they have that balance,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
I definitely agree, as being a teacher at one point in my life.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for all what you did.
Yeah. And it was, I didn't teach, regular formal education.
Mm-hmm.
I was more in adult learning.
Of course.
So teaching in adult learning, there was a lot of things that I didn't understand, especially when it came to pay, because I taught in minority communities. Mm-hmm. My students were, if we looked at it, 90% of the students were minorities, but I was teaching them life skills, basically something that will carry them on throughout their lives, and they will be okay and be able to operate in society. And what I got paid was, it was a decent enough wage, but from what I was teaching in that room would be worth $1 million a year at least to the individuals I was teaching in that room, but I wasn't getting a portion of that, not even a tenth of that. That was going to the CEOs and everything else that didn't look like the individuals in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And thank you for the contribution you made through teaching, because, I'm one of the recipients who went to an adult high school. It was a teacher like you that turned the light on for me, you know what I'm saying? And that educated me and made me strive harder because, I didn't, when I was growing up, I didn't care nothing about school. I'm gonna be real about it. I'm like, man, I'm just gonna go just to get my diploma and I'm out, you know what I'm saying? My mindset and education was not really a component that was pushing my home. It was more or less you just go, you get your degree, you go and work at a job for the rest of your life or whatsoever have you. Entrepreneurship wasn't encouraged. Getting straight A's in schools was not encouraged. The value of education was not encouraged because, born in a single family household, my mom didn't emphasize that as much. And then, we'll probably talk about my father later once we talk about Belly the Beast and so much. But, as far as that goes, but I think it's important what you did and those teachers did because teachers now, they're in a far worse position now than they were before because now they have to be concerned about, school mass shootings and different things like that, where their life is at jeopardy. Before they go to school and most of the teacher had to worry about was a kid disrespecting them and they go home. But now they got to worry about hiding under the desk, not only the teacher, but the students and all these different things. Because you might have some crazed person who got mad because a girl didn't like him or they bullied him in school. He wanted to shoot the school up. So their life is more at risk and they should get paid more, at least hazarded pay, just because of the fact they're in the classroom. That's just my opinion, but I think that should happen.
Yeah, and I think that teachers actually mold the world, right?
Exactly. They do.
That they create our future, and I just think, especially since we were on the Juneteenth topic, and we're speaking about education.
Yes,
and while we were growing up, there were the things that we weren't taught in school were taught in schools that were outside of our area.
Absolutely.
Or in private schools, or definitely not in public schools. I know
definitely
that
not.
for sure.
Definitely not.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And I think what is happening now, I know for sure in New York, right? It's more about teaching the students to take a test and pass the test more than actually learning. So we're turning them into robots, and it is very easy to control a robot, right?
Absolutely.
You press a button, you say go right, it goes right. You say left, it goes left.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on. And I hope that movement of putting Black history in schools is going to change a lot, and it's going to change the bigotry that we have that goes across the United States, right?
Yeah.
And across the world. Because I can tell you, we spoke about Juneteenth. It hasn't been that long that I found out about what Black Wall Street meant. And the first time I heard Black Wall Street had nothing to do with Tulsa, Oklahoma. Like it had nothing to do with it. Was the game and him talking about Black Wall Street. And I'm like, Black Wall Street, and that was his little group or record label that he had going on at the time. And I'm like, Black Wall Street, yo, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
But you sit there and you Google Black Wall Street, and there's other information that comes up, and then you're like, whoa, wait, hold up, what is this? That game had nothing to do with that. Game wasn't even born, So I think that it putting a lot of those things in our books or ebooks or however they're going to do it, is going to be monumental to the world, the individuals in the world understanding each other a little more, right? Because I don't think that the struggle of the Black man or the Black family or just Black people in general are understood by those that didn't live those lives.
I agree. There's a hashtag on Twitter which says Black history is American history. I think, that pretty much sums it up. You can't separate one from the other. One of the ways that we come to recognize and respect another person's struggle is by being invited into the room and knowing what it's like by putting on their shoes. But you can never know what my experience is like until you identify with that experience. and be willing to be open-minded to that experience. And more importantly, interacting with people that had that experience. Because a lot of times people refuse to understand the experience or even be willing to open up in their eyes because they come in with preconceived notions. Like whenever we talk about white supremacy or white privilege, the first reaction you normally get is, oh, you're trying to say I'm a racist or this and that. And the name calling gets thrown around rather than trying to get understanding. And ultimately, the goal that we have as Black people is that, hey, we want you to understand our struggle. That way you can identify more with us. And that way, when you see a Trayvon Martin or, different people who got killed innocently by someone else, you won't jump to the quick conclusion that, oh, they deserved it because they were doing something wrong, or you won't have this stereotypical idea in your head that you use to judge situations or the lens you look through, because you will be informed and you will be more knowledgeable about struggle, and you'll understand that people that do certain things and take Black lives indiscriminately or just with the ill intentions, they have the wrong mindset, and you will understand that that's not the right way to think, and you'll be more appreciative towards the Black struggle as a result.
Yeah, and like you said, education is key.
Absolutely.
And it's not just educating our children; it's educating the masses, the ones that don't look like us.
Exactly.
I was a little disappointed in 2020. Not just because of COVID. I got my own notions on the whole COVID thing.
Well, me too.
got my whole notions on the COVID thing. Right, but based on the previous President 45, aka Donald Trump,
of course,
and a lot of the stuff that he was saying, there was violence against a particular group of Asians because of what he was saying. So now in legislation, there was things put in based on hate crimes towards Asians and this, that, and the third. Right? But then almost a whole year later, right, of COVID, it takes all of that one situation that happened within those 12 months, right? 12 months. We're talking about 12 months. Everything that there was legislation, there was people signing bills, and there was everything going on. Year after that, like, hey, you know what? Let's throw them a bone. Let's make Juneteenth a federal holiday. I feel a way about that.
Well, I do too. I think that we've been dealing with the idea of reparations since the late 80s. That's been an ongoing struggle. Shouldn't have been, because anyone with common sense would realize the value of it. We've been dealing with the George Floyd bill since his death, about getting that passed. And we've been having resistance. Anytime that we try to push something through legislatively, and it has anything to deal with things that would be advantageous to the Black culture or the different things that we're challenged with, there's always pushback. Even when if you consider yourself a Democrat, even when we have people that's more open-minded towards our struggle and more willing to take a step, even they struggle within their own ranks as far as making moves. But then, like you said before, when it dealt with the Asian Americans, we saw legislative pass rather quickly. And don't get me wrong, it should have been done. I'm not against that. Right. I'm for making wrongs right. But we also got to take in consideration, we've been having legislation that's been sitting on the stockpile for a while, and it hasn't had any movement. And so we need to have movement as well, because let's bring Joe Biden into the picture. His whole campaign was revigorated because of what happened in South Carolina, which was predominantly Black, that put him over the hump. So there should be more legislation moving in our direction. There should be more sensitivity towards our struggle in his administration. I'm glad you went to Tulsa and you gave the speech, but we've been getting speeches for years now. We need action. We need action. We don't need no more speeches. We heard enough of them. It's time to take action. That's what we need.
And I think, calling a spade, I think that a lot of times we take those speeches and we hold on to those words a little too much,
I agree.
right? We're like, oh, like Joe Biden said, this is gonna happen. This is gonna do. He's gonna do this, and we just run with it, and then we don't continue to push and fight on. I think that we have to say, hey, you said this, but when we need timelines, or we need dates, so we need, and can we hold you accountable?
Yeah, we need deadlines. I mean, when is it going to happen? Because we can keep talking about this conversation all the way into the last day of your administration, and nothing has taken place. And so we're due. We're long overdue. I mean, some of the things that's being debated in the Senate or the House or even Congress, as a matter of fact, it don't need to be debated no more. It just need to be passed. I mean, we debated over it for years. It's time to get it done. That's basically what it is. What we need to debate about. We know the issues. We know why it need to be done. We know what we don't need. We don't even need a commission. We just need it to be passed. I'll just leave it at that. You know, we just need to be passed.
Now I'm gonna ask you.
Yes.
Right, because I can't remember the acronym you gave for them introducing Black history into schools.
No problem.
What was it again?
It's called CRT, critical race theory. That's what they termed it as. That's what it's been coined as, rather.
Right. So critical race theory, right? Now, there was, and God bless the internet for doing what they do. I would say probably maybe about a week or two ago. You know, it's crazy that you brought that up, how we're pushing to teach Black history in schools. But there was legislation passed probably in the last couple of months a bill that was passed, that was signed, and it was to remove Black history teachings. So the history of Martin Luther King, the history of Malcolm X, the history of Rosa Parks, this was signed, right, by Congress to remove these things. And we all know when bills get passed, we got the bill that says, hey, we're going to save the world, the greenhouse bill. but at the bottom of that bill, there's other things that just that nobody ever looks at, that they don't talk about, and they're removing these things. And then they're trying to implement the teachings of individuals. And I can't remember any of these individuals' names, but I know for sure, one, they're not American born, they're not American citizens, and they live in another country. But we're going to teach the teachings or the learnings of individuals from another country in the United States of America, but remove what happened in the United States of America from the books, so that our children that are American citizens and American born will never know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, because once you start dealing with Black history and you start dealing with those things, you have to deal with the issue of racism. You know what I'm saying? And that's really what it boils down to, because when you deal with, you can't talk about enslavement without talking about white supremacy, or you can't deal with Jim Crow without talking about racism or white supremacy, because they're interconnected. You can't have one without the other. And so you have to address both at the same time. And I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, that's one of America's biggest sins, is that we did that to a group of people, and America does not want to deal with that. They don't want to provide compensation for that. But you don't hear that when it comes to the Native Americans. You don't hear that when it came to what they did for the Japanese Americans when they were in those concentration camps years ago. And those things have happened. But yet, whenever we try to bring something to the forefront, or whenever we feel that we should be compensated, there's always some type of backlash, or there's always some type of struggle that we have to go through in order just to get the attention of people who can move it forward. You know, it just seems like it's just always a challenge whenever we bring it up.
And you know, I know definitely for sure you'll be able to remember this, but the whole 40 acres and a mule situation.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. So we had the 40 acres and a mule situation, but they're like, yo, we're gonna set you free. We're gonna give you 40 acres and a mule. We still waiting on the 40 acres and a mule.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're like, well, you can forfeit the 40 acres and a mule, and we'll open up black banks for you.
Mm-hmm.
But right, these black banks weren't black owned; they were owned by the same people that enslaved us.
Exactly.
And they controlled our money.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as sharecropping. I mean, sharecropping basically was another name of enslavement. It was just a way to get cheap labor. Basically, they would have the ex-slave work the land, and the ex-slave would continue to get money from the landowner, and basically they'll stay forever in debt and continue to work the land. They never got free from the debt that they were in. So it's just another way to keep people working, either close to being free, basically cheap labor, which was similar to slavery. Enslavement, there really wasn't much of a difference. It was just had a different name. That was the only difference, if you ask me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, before we even get into Belly of the Beast, I got to play Blackface.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
So we're going to get into Blackface. So introduce this for the people.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is one of the first songs coming from our forthcoming EP called Soulplantation, called Blackface. And I'm going to let the song tell you what it's about, because if you're familiar with the term, then you'll line up with it. So tune in now. This song is produced by Big Bob, coming from SoulRac. Tune in to Blackface.
You can see between the tears in his jeans there that he also appears to have the makeup down his legs as well.
Someone in blackface next to a guy dressed as a member of the KKK.
I have been around people, or I've been at school where teachers have showed up in blackface, where I've seen events where other people have showed up in blackface.
I know it's been a while since someone spoke the truth. To open up your mind is what I hope to do. What we find offensive is a joke for you, but when it's said and done, I hope I've broken through. Cause blackface, it left permanent scars. It's hard to see the light when you learn in the dark. You say let's forget it happened years ago, but every time we see it we feel miserable. We can't move on unless we face our sins. Then we'll be a lot further than the place we in. For the people died before me, I pay true homage. Cause blackface to me is more than shoe polish. Why our blood stain the soil and left bitter roots. I wish cops had restraint and they didn't shoot. We can't move forward unless we face our sins. Then we'll be a lot further than the place we in.
White performers would appear in blackface. Using burnt cork or shoe polish, they would paint their face and dress in ragged clothing, leaving the area around their mouths unpainted. On stage, performers would depict the caricatures they were playing as lazy, ignorant, and would use exaggerated accents, ridiculing black people.
I'm sick of the lies that get in the mind, beginning to find political minds with criminal ties is keeping us blind. You step out of line, they keep you in line by using the noose to lynch the blacks to keep us back from hearing the truth. We never deserve to live in a world where they darken their face, calling us coons and all of our tunes, they part of my race. I hear you like the stereotype in the shows. Your prejudice would lead to this in minstrel shows. Buffoonery we're soon to see in the face. The images that injured us we can't erase. You went the path to get a laugh or party tricks. Defamation left our nation hardly fixed. Broken hearts with no regard for black life. The sickness spread in our head like crack pipes. Buffoonery you're soon to see in our face. The images that injured us we can't erase.
Almost everyone has heard the term blackface, but many people don't know the origins or why it is so hurtful to so many people.
Performance is always about power. It's always about who has the right to be on stage and who has the right to take on the caricature, right? And historically, that power has always been in the hands of white males.
White men in blackface trying to shuck a jive, standing on stage in an ugly disguise, like William H. West playing a role. In every minstrel show, that's where the story was told. Now Thomas D. Rice, he gave it pop appeal. With jumping Jim Crow passing the cotton field. Al Joseph did Mammy on the jazz singer and made us feel like we were distant strangers. And we still did with his legacy, we felt the pain. Being second class citizens since his left his stain. We've been traumatized, although Obama rise. We're still considered niggas and the drama survived through the ages. And let's demand the nation Erase blackface and the degradation from the past. On our shoulders rests glory. This is the beginning, not the end of the story. Blackface, blackface. Blackface, blackface. Blackface, blackface.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate you playing that.
So, you know, there's a lot that you said, a lot. And you know, I'm so glad that you know we got you back on, so that we could chop it up and we could talk, because I think not only in your music, but in your dialect, right? You provide the information that is missing, right? In what our people need to know, and we need to remember. Like it does, I'm not saying we need to be out there and be angry, and we need to sit there and riot, and that's not what I'm saying, right? But understanding, I'm a true believer in understanding where you came from and where you at is very important. And with America doing certain things to erase us being able to understand where we came from, you can't erase 400 years of slavery.
No,
you can't. I'm sorry, you can't. You cannot do that in no way, shape, or form. Right? When we talk about reparations, right? We're talking about reparations, right? We have the Native Americans that were here before we got here, before any of us got here, right? They were here before we got here. But there are individuals, there's a group of people that weren't, you know, harmed by the United States of America, but them being in America, they get reparations from America for something that happened that wasn't on U.S. soil.
Exactly.
Right? And, you know, I don't want to, I kind of do, but I kind of don't want to get into that whole thing. But, you know, I love everybody. It doesn't matter where you come from, whatever you hear, whatever. People are people. But we all know what Hitler did.
Yeah, I agree.
And the people that received reparations from what Hitler did, that wasn't America doing that to those group of individuals.
You're right.
But they received reparations and everything from us here. Right? But we got, you know, land that is connected to the United States that's only separated by that imaginary line, right? That we put, right? We got South America, we got Canada, we got those type of situations. We got the Caribbean, right? That we supposedly offer asylum to the individuals that are supposedly, or that are, right? Not supposedly, but that are, you know, trying to escape where they're from, right? That's one thing about America. America's the melting pot of all cultures.
Yeah, that's ideally what they project. Yeah.
Right. Ideally what they project. But those that look like the majority, right? Because they do classify us as minorities, right?
Yes,
minorities, when we sit there and we look at the definition of minorities, is the smaller group or the less of, right? But we make up what America is. We're not a minority. We're actually the majority in America.
Exactly.
but you ensure that, I can tell you, ICE definitely keeps us at bay. That is that governmental
Oh yeah.
situation
Oh yeah.
that really targets us.
Yeah, it does. It was put in place for that purpose,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, oh, but even talking about these things, like this is stuff that is close and dear to my heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Close and dear to my heart. When Obama became president, right? You
Mm-hmm.
even mentioned that in blackface,
Oh yeah.
and,
Oh
and
yeah.
we're sitting there and we're so happy that Obama made it in.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if anybody noticed, but when Obama came in office, he looked young and vibrant.
Yes, he did.
And the stuff that was going on behind closed doors,
Mm-hmm.
Obama aged heavily
Yes, he
in
did.
those 8 years that he was in office.
Mm-hmm.
He practically had a full head of gray hair.
Yeah.
And we all know that comes about due to stress and everything else. And there's certain things he can't talk about,
Mm-hmm.
right? But he tried to make a change. He tried to make it better. He did what he could. And then, of course, we know after everything that Obama did, the 45th president,
Mm-hmm.
decided he was going to reverse everything that was done 8 years prior to.
Mm-hmm. And that's normally how it happens anyway. I mean, whenever you see some significant change, there's either a white lash or you see, well, like they say, one step forward, two steps back. Anytime we see progress or we see things, we can debate over the word better or whatever term you want to use. Whenever we see some level of progress, there's always some type of backlash. I mean, we look at the civil rights movement now and we appreciate what it became, but they went through hell and back just to even get that legislation pushed through. I mean, there were people that was beaten up, people that got killed, people that were lynched, and so on and so forth. And so there's always a process whenever we make change for the better, especially if there's something related to civil rights. And so we're going to continue to do it, but we got to stay vigilant. We got to continue to fight, and we still got to continue to educate people along the way.
Yeah, and I think that's super important because, as you said, civil rights movement, they went through so much,
Mm-hmm.
right? So beatings, lynchings, and things like that. Now, if you look at any of those books that talk about how to control individuals, how to win a war, or
Mm-hmm.
how to build a kingdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's you invoke fear in those individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And during all the movements that we could ever speak of, it doesn't matter what it is, right? Black Wall Street, we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
George Floyd, we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about, you know, just what's going on right now
Mm-hmm.
with all the movements, Black Lives Matter movement and everything else. They instill fear in individuals with violence and things of that nature. And we need to understand as people, this is what they're going to do. If we fall to the wayside because we're afraid of something happening, we
Mm-hmm.
won't take those steps forward to change anything.
Yeah, I mean that's what they always done. I mean, you think about during the civil rights movement, the FBI was one of the main components against the Nation of Islam, which they had their movement, and then you had Martin Luther King and what they try to do, and then eventually the Black Panthers. But ideally, what they try to do is try to make us fight against one another and tear each other down because that's part of the process of elimination. And so we have to remind ourselves what it's all about. We have to stay focused and we have to keep that unity up and hold it up no matter what happens or this and that. Because when you saw the Black Panthers starting to make their moves, they was trying to get the gangs that were in LA and different places like that to fight against them. They try to get the different movements that, even though they might have differed as far as approach, ideally they all were for the same thing, which was Black liberation. But they wanted to have them fight against one another because that's the best way to stop a movement is to have the people who's pushing the movement to be at odds at odds with one another. So that's what they do all the time. They get us psychologically if they can't get us physically.
Right. And I think that if we paid attention, because I know, the saying was, if you want to hide something from a nigga, put it in a book.
Yeah.
But outside of putting it in a book, they put it in front of us a lot, a lot. You know, there was a movie that was very, very and it had a very strong impression on me, and that was Panthers.
Oh yeah, that
Right?
was dope.
Right, Panthers, right? So it was where basically they told us, the federal government, right, the FBI, said, hey, we're going to introduce drugs into these communities where we have the Black Panthers, we have the gangs, the Bloods and the Crips, and we have the Muslims and Malcolm X and the movement, and everybody being strong and pushing forward. We're going to introduce drugs into these communities, right? And also, if we sit there and we think about it, right, we had the projects, right? But what we call the projects, right? That the housing developments, but it was a project. So you limit resources, you put a certain amount of individuals an exuberant amount of individuals within a 1 block radius, limit resources, and then introduce a substance, right? That will change their way of being, feeling, or even having motivation to do better, right? Because the projects was a stepping stone to get to that next level. But if we sit there and we think back to, if you put, let's say, a bunch of rats or any type of animal, right? You put a bunch of them in a box and you throw one piece of meat, what's going to happen? Only the strong survive. Survival of the fittest. Only the strong survive, right? That's what they did with us as people. They did that with us as people, and it is so scary. It is so scary that our eyes are not open enough, right? I understand the whole being woke, but a lot of times we tend to be woke, but in the wrong areas.
That's true. Yeah.
Like we're woke.
Yeah.
We're boycotting Kmart when we should be boycotting a lot of other things.
That's true. That's why it's important what you're doing and what I'm doing, because we provide a platform and an outlet for people to hear about the things that are happening. We provide that real-time information because we're not indebted to a commercial entity. You know what I'm saying? We don't have to worry about big time advertisers that's saying, well, they don't want to advertise because we're speaking truth. We can be free to a certain extent, you know what I'm saying? Because, freedom is defined differently for different folks. But ideally, you have a lot more opportunities to speak truth to power because you're not beholden to a corporate entity or a corporation that's looking to advertise on your show. And those who do advertise, they stand behind you because of the fact they know what you stand for and they ain't in agreement with what you stand for. But that's what prevents a lot of truth from coming out, because at the end of the day, it's all about that bottom line. I mean, I think one of the most effective protests we can ever do, and I use the Montgomery buzzcot with the one, as an example, is that you affect the economic condition of the person you're protesting, because you can get in front of their stores. As long as people coming in and buying, they're not going to be affected as much. But you take away that bottom line, now you got their attention. And it's economics. It's all about that bottom line. You get in them pockets, you get their attention a lot quicker. Not saying that the other one does not provide an impact, but if you want to make a greater impact, you got to get in those pockets.
Yeah, and I think that, especially when it comes to mainstream media, right? Because we know that they control what the masses see, right?
Absolutely.
So you have NBC, CBS, you have PIX, you have all these things, right?
Yes.
These conglomerates that sit there and everything is controlled by that bottom line.
Yes.
Right. So until you affect, right, those conglomerates that are in association with those massive media platforms, your voice, your message is not going to be heard.
Absolutely. That's the fact, facts on that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's one thing before we get into Belly of the Beast, right?
Okay.
That I want to talk to you about. And as we was talking about, the movie Panthers and things like that, and introducing drugs into, certain neighborhoods, right? There was a lot of things that happened, especially in New York, right? So I've spent basically, I'm a New Yorker. I've never lived any place else but New York.
Okay.
And we had the Rockefeller laws and things of that nature that were put in place back in, I would say, the 80s and 90s. We had crack cocaine that was introduced. I'm an individual that I'll be the first one to tell you. I said there ain't no way in hell that somebody that was just chilling on the block that I knew said, "Hey, I'm gonna take cocaine, put it in a pot, right? I'm gonna boil the water. I'm gonna do this. And we're not gonna get into how to make crack cocaine."
Yeah, well, we know,
right?
Yeah,
and then you gotta buy a Pyrex, right? Because Pyrex is the only thing that's gonna withstand the temperature change in order for you to do what you do. But then they made laws that because you changed the physical chemical aspect of cocaine, that you would get life in prison.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But we didn't. They wasn't teaching chemistry in my hood.
No, definitely not.
And so I just want people to understand that a lot of the ways the laws were put into place, it was because they manipulated certain things.
Yeah.
And the black family with the two parents in the household and things like that, there were a lot of things that were controlled by the government. And with Belly of the Beast, I want people to understand, by watching what you're going to see right now at this moment, is only depicting the things that they no longer put out there on Front Street for us to see. But when they lock up or when they put a black man away, these are the things that happen behind those walls that you were not privy to because you were not there.
Exactly. And like you said, when we deal with the crack epidemic, the difference between what was happening in the 80s and 90s, and another thing you guys were dealing with in New York as well was stop and frisk. But the biggest thing that we have to, the biggest takeaway I would say is that now when you look at opioids, they talk about treatment that wasn't provided to the people that were struggling with the crack epidemic. Mostly the mom or dad were locked up as a result of the drug. Either they used it or they were the one that sold it or whatever the case may be. But they weren't getting treatment. They were getting locked up. They were treated as criminals, where the people who are caught with opioids are treated as people that are victimized by the drug itself, and they're getting treatment. And so that's where you see the disparity right there. But the end result was mass incarceration, where families were decimated as a result of having a two-family household where there were two incomes to one income. And then if the mom or dad were on drugs, that pretty much put the child into, the system. And so it becomes a cycle, and that cycle needs to be broken, basically.
Yes. Yeah. And it does. And when I tell you, just you saying with opioids that there's treatment, right? We all know, right? Now it's all about addiction and we talk about how we can treat it and things like that. But even before the crack epidemic, there was the heroin epidemic.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it was.
And what it was with the heroin epidemic, we had methadone clinics that just basically, it didn't help you with your addiction. It just gave you something else. Now, I don't know if you've seen people that get treatment for heroin addiction through a methadone clinic, but they look a little just as messed up.
Yeah, you're right.
As if they was on heroin, right? Back in the days in New York, we called it a dope fiend lean. You never seen a dope fiend hit the floor. Never. But they would get real close.
Yeah.
And they would hop up. And with the crack epidemic, we're talking about cocaine that was too expensive to sell in the hood. But then we changed the chemical aspect of cocaine and made it affordable. What we're talking about, you got the 2 for $5s, right? The 2 for $5s out there. Yo, anybody in the hood, yo, $5, I get high.
Yeah.
Yo, that's what's up.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But we need to get, we're going to get into this belly. We're going to get into this belly of the beast right now, because before you know it, there ain't going to be no time left.
I know. But we having a good conversation, though. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So introduce the belly of the beast. Introduce everybody that's on it and all that.
Absolutely. Well, the next track you get ready to hear is about mass incarceration, or prison for profit. And basically, I have Craig G on there, the honorary Juice Crew alumni, as well as my man BBS Verbal, and then of course SoulRac, produced by Big Bob, and you have scratches from L Don the Cut.
All right, here we go, y'all.
So everybody that's working on issues of reform and trying to make the prison a better place to live, listen, that's not what prisoners want, right? And this whole issue that these false dichotomies that we keep engaging in, man. Children in prison, women in prison, old people in prison.
They just sentenced the little homie to 20 plus. Had a public defender, he couldn't get his money up. Prosecutor didn't care, he was only 17. Circumstantial evidence erased him from the scene. George Zimmerman is a free man to kill again. Some folks were innocent, cell blocks they fill them in. Sweatshop workers for 20 cents per hour. Take away your dignity, washing in group showers. Away from your family, a 12-hour bus trip. Racist CEOs on that fuck shit. It sucks, kid. The judge screams guilty to lighten up his caseload. Liars testify on the stand playing a fake role. Solitary confinement, an extra way to break souls. Inhumane treatment or not, how the debate goes. And if you get released from this situation, they'll keep you under their thumb with a 20-year probation.
And this is what we got to start. We got to take control of this language, man. We got to take control of this narrative, man. We got to start eliminating things that disconnect us, that divide us.
That's real.
Until we do that, until we begin to connect the dots, we are finished. We ain't going nowhere.
Bulldog fully loaded, stash in a shiny case. Large bags gotta eat, fuck all them tiny plates. In the hood, check the totem pole, I'm highly placed. Right hand been locked since summer of 98. I'm from the home of the kids clapping and kidnappings. Shootouts in broad day, at least 10 stabbings. Rep your hood, most of us come from hard places. Get caught up, turn incarcerated scar faces. A vast population up in them state prisons. You wanna fight for your life now, the stakes risen. Could count on one hand the people that might be with me. Peep the prison system growth since 1950. They locking up 9 times as many blacks. United States jail population, the biggest facts. Trust staying on these streets is an annual challenge. Them long-term effects will cause collateral damage.
Welcome to America, the home of the brave, where black and brown faces can be owned like a slave. We're lost in the wilderness from false imprisonment. Our youth behind bars and it cost the innocent. The 13th Amendment, it never intended to give us our freedom but have slavery extended. They make us rot in the cells, throw the risk and profit. But when we talk about it, try to switch the topic. Centuries of degradation that we saw in the book couldn't break us with chains, so they calling us crooks. So a cop could justify when he spilled innocent blood. For driving around black or if you live in the hood. Mass incarceration, class indoctrination, past discrimination, we ask for reparations. Cause 2 million inside, will they ever be free? We face the new Jim Crow, all the belly of the beast. Welcome to America. 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 Welcome to America.
And see, that's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know, the message in your music is powerful.
I appreciate that. Thank
Right?
you.
We're talking about, and I might get this wrong. You 20 cents, 28 cents an hour, or 20 cents an hour.
Yeah, that's what Craig G was saying. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
So, and then we're talking about reparations, which we spoke about before.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about, you know, violence in our neighborhoods and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, growing up, I could tell you, right? I grew up in the hood.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in the hood. For me to get my hand on an illegal gun was definitely super easy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like super easy, right? So to get my hand on a legal gun and be out there, you know, doing what I do in my neighborhood, or being able to get in the drug game, or do whatever, like super easy,
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
To do the right thing was super hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be an entrepreneur, those are the things that we weren't taught. It was, you know, it was, yo, you saw the hustlers on the corner, you saw all that. And I think we go back to the education part, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we educate the youth, if we educate the individuals in our neighborhood, we won't have that. And I think we we have moved to a situation now that the internet, right? Although
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't built for what it is right now, for what it is transcended to,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is
Mm-hmm.
truly dangerous for the government, because me and you can sit here and have this conversation, and I can tell you, I'm not going to say that they can't stop us, because I'm
Yeah.
surprised. I'm surprised
Yeah.
that we still on because of what we've been speaking about. But
Mm-hmm.
I've had situations where they've shut my whole live feed down.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've
Mm-hmm.
shut it down. Like next thing you know, I'm getting notifications. My laptop is lighting up. You're
Mm-hmm.
no longer live. Like, what you mean? It's because of what we're speaking of. So again, introducing a lot, them transitioning to these forms of media, or whatever it is that they're doing, or being able to deliver information, they need to understand that we are resilient people, and we're going to find a way no matter how many obstacles you put in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to keep on moving, and we're going to get our message out somehow.
Yep. That's true.
And just like in hip hop, where they said it was a fad, a phase, it wasn't going to last long. They didn't think we was going to make it to where we are today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? But again, when we go to back to economics, right? They didn't crush the whole hip hop thing, because they realized, oh snap, we could make some money off of this, which
Absolutely.
they have. They've made billions of dollars, if not trillions of dollars off of us,
Oh yes.
right?
Absolutely.
Doing what we do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Spreading whatever message, but they try to limit where that message goes.
Exactly.
And then going back to blackface, right? We sit there and we think about it, right? Because hip hop is no longer individuals. Well, it's not just individuals that look like you and I,
Mm-hmm.
right? They started introducing their own faces into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they put the money behind it. Back to economics, right?
Mm-hmm.
The money, big bank, big bank does what it does. Little bank never tell big bank what to do,
That's how it always goes. Absolutely.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're sitting there. But I want to know, right, without you telling your story, or your mission, or your plans on how to get your message out there.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you do, personally, as an artist, to get your music in those ears, that to the people that really need to hear you?
I mean, one of them is one of the things I'm doing now is connecting with shows that provide me a platform that are like-minded people. Just being on your platform and many others like yours, and getting them in the hands of DJs that's willing to play it. One of the other things is just creating a strong social media presence where you can be able to grab a captive audience and speak the truth to them, and then that way they're informed about your music. You got to do this because you love it. You can't do it because you're going to make $1 million. If that's why you do it, then you'll quit day one. But you got to do it because you love it, and you got to do it because you're on a mission to make a difference in your community and worldwide. And that's what drives me more than anything, is that I want to leave a legacy for my son and daughter, and leave something for the next generation to listen to or to grow from.
Yeah, and I definitely respect that. And I don't know if I said it earlier, but happy belated Father's Day.
And same to you. Thank you. And the same to you.
I got a tribe of kids.
Okay.
Right? Definitely got a tribe of kids.
Word. All right.
Right. But that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to procreate, right?
That's right. That's what I say. Replenish. Yeah. We'll be replenish the earth. Absolutely.
That's it. Right. And that's what makes us the majority. The majority in this situation is because we do procreate.
Exactly.
And I just think that we need to truly focus on education. And I think the whole George Floyd situation, although very, very tragic, right? It was that was hard to watch. It was hard to understand, but I think that what happened with George Floyd opened up the world's eyes to what happens here in America, because America has been they've been able to keep themselves under this umbrella, right? Because we sit there and we occupy lands all over the world because of certain things that happen on those lands. But we sit in here, we like, yo, in America, it's not like that. But this is why we here right now, because you're doing what America doesn't really accept.
Yeah, I mean, the George Floyd situation had the same impact that when they saw it on video, the same impact that we saw with the the civil rights movement when they were beaten, when they came across the bridge. It was on national news, and so people was able to see the atrocities versus hearing about and reading about in the newspaper. When you can visually see something, that makes a big difference to people. And that can it'll turn some lights on. Some people are going to be, stuck to their ways, and those people you can't move. But those who are sensitive to it and open to it, you can start moving them in the right direction, or at least begin the conversation. So that was the impact of George Floyd. And there's going to be, unfortunately, there will be more George Floyds and Sandra Bland's that will continue to happen until we come to the point in saying that police brutality is wrong, mass incarceration is wrong. And, so many other things that are happening are wrong, until we come to that point of saying it's wrong and putting in legislation or taking action to stop it. Then we'll see a serious change that take place in this country.
Yeah. And although I feel, right, and this is just my opinion, that we have made movement in that direction, we still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
We definitely have a long way to go.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I share the same sentiment. So we're on the same page.
Yeah. So with Belly of the Beast, with and we definitely already went over, but
that's okay. I'm good. As long as you're good, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Right.
I just want people to know that right now, regardless of whatever we're speaking about, this is what I feel the individuals that are watching really need to hear. Right? It's very important that the messages that came through during this show, that you truly understand, or just be receptive. You don't gotta fully understand, just be receptive of it. And something that may have touched you within this last hour, you just sit there and you do your research and and sit there and fact check us. Hey, look, ain't nothing wrong with Googling something, right? Because that's the term, right? Google it, right? Google it, right? So mass incarceration and all these different things that we spoke about here tonight. Take the time out, just educate yourself, because that's the only way we're going to change what we see happening on a day-to-day basis, that we get disgusted when we see it, right? We're so disgusted when we see a man get killed, or a black man get killed, or we see these traffic stops, right, gone wrong, or an incident where it's a shoplifter that gets flipped upside down on their neck, or someone that was handcuffed got put in the back of a police van, but by the time they made it to the precinct, they was dead. These are things that we need to educate ourselves on and understand that why are we putting, and I love animals, right? But I feel that here in the United States of America, an animal, a dog, a cat, a rabbit, a bird have more civil liberties than we do as black people. So we need to change that, right? Because we're talking about human beings and an animal. We eat animals in the United States of America. We might not eat dogs and cats, but we do eat animals. We breed them to feed us. So when are we gonna sit there and really get the message that the black and brown people in America should have the same civil liberties as the white individuals, right? And I would say counterparts, because the only thing that separates us is our culture. At the end of the day, we're still human beings, all of us.
Exactly.
So let's make that right. Let's make it right. Let's change that for the better and stop trying to go backwards with erasing history and doing all that crazy nonsense, because there's platforms like this that are going to sit there and call you out all day, every day. All day, every day. But I definitely want to get into, before we get up out of here, right? Because we got one more track, and that is Catch Me Slipping, or
Caught You Slipping. Yeah, Caught You Slipping. Yeah.
Caught You Slipping. Right. I want to play that for the people.
Okay.
I want to play that for the people. It's not a video like the other two. But so we're gonna sit here, we're gonna rock out with you.
All right, that's right.
While it's playing. So I just want you to introduce it.
All right.
And all that for the people one more time.
No problem. Well, once again, we thank you for listening to the songs tonight from my upcoming EP, Soulploitation. The third song you're going to hear is called Caught You Slipping, featuring A-Man Baba, and it features El Don The Cut, which is scratching on it, and produced by Big Bob.
All right, here we go, y'all. Oh, wait. It's coming, y'all. It's coming. I don't know what just happened there.
No problem.
All right, here we go. Yeah. And that was Caught You Slipping, y'all. Right? I'm just saying. Right? We talking about messages and we talking about music. Right? So I don't think that there's nothing that was heard tonight that you couldn't classify as music. And there's nothing that you heard that you couldn't classify as a message. So I definitely want, you know what? Before we even get into anything else, right? Make sure that you follow, right? You see it on the bottom of the screen, right? At SoulRac Music.
Yeah. Definitely.
Right. You gotta follow at SoulRac Music, because that is where, if you might think that you're not getting the message that you're getting, or you're not getting educated the way you need to be educated, listen to this man.
Appreciate that.
And what he's doing, because you know, it's this overwhelming feeling that I get when I listen to your music, because growing up and listening to certain things, we in the music that was presented to us, it taught us, it glorified a lot of things that it shouldn't have glorified.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to listen to this, and me being a father of four, and going through what I went through growing up in life, I could definitely have a great appreciation for the things that you say.
Appreciate that.
From police violence to almost getting locked up, to a lot of my family members being incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those things that losing contact, or not being around, or having individuals that can't be in the lives of their children because of the way society has pushed a certain message. Mm-hmm. To hear a message that is 180 degrees against what we've been taught is refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad that you get that experience from the music. That's what any artist will hope for, is that it will have some type of impact on the ears of the listener. When I wrote these rhymes and when I went into the booth, that was the thing that drove me to do what I'm doing, is to make a difference and to touch those who are open to what I have to say and what is being heard. Because a lot of times people don't want to hear what you have to say, even if it is something positive. And just some people just locked into a certain thought process, or they just locked into what they're used to hearing. And anything that challenges that, people don't want to hear it. So they get, have a deaf ear to it. So it's appreciated when someone recognizes the value of what you're doing and they don't mind sharing it with other people. And that's what ignites my soul when I see those things, or when I hear about those things.
I hope your soul is on fire tonight, brother.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. It is. Absolutely.
I hope that it is, man. And so you got this new project dropping,
mm-hmm.
and releasing.
Mm-hmm.
When is the full release date for everything?
Well, for the EP, right now it's TBA, to be announced, because I'm planning to do something different. I plan to only have it on CD, where people can purchase it, because it's going to be a collector's item. I'm going to have artwork by David Barnes, which will be exclusive. So the only way you get the artwork is if you buy the CD, which will be sold on my website, which is www.soulrac.com. So sign up, and that way you can be updated as far as the release date. But once the release date has been made available, I'll definitely be glad to share it with you. If you need me to come on the show, I'll do it there as well. But that's what we're waiting on right now. Just going to get the CDs printed, and then they'll be available for release for people to buy a copy.
So you hear that, right? Right. It's to be announced.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, really. And what's the name of the project again?
It's called Soulploitation, which is like SOUL, and then ploitation, which is taken from the word blaxploitation. So Soulploitation.
Right. And if y'all didn't know, who SoulRac is, aka Carlos,
Yeah.
aka right.
Yeah.
So that's it. If y'all really don't know, I think that you doing what you doing and going against the grain, even just offering a project on CD,
Mm-hmm.
it's a bold move.
Oh yeah.
Definitely a bold move.
Mm-hmm.
But the one, and if we go through history, especially our history, the ones that decided to stick out like a sore thumb or that nail that wasn't fully hammered into that wood are the ones that actually get their message out and the ones that are heard the most because they're not doing what the masses are doing. So I think although it's against the grain, it is very strategic. And I think that that's very needed right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The singles will be available online, but the EP will only be available through CD. But yeah, we're definitely so we keep it different and keep people, intrigued. That's the whole idea behind it.
And yo, I will say this, right? Because got the when I checked it out, of course, doing the research, right?
Mm-hmm.
Blackface numbers on YouTube for the video with the visuals
Mm-hmm.
are definitely nothing to laugh at,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those numbers is there.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about oh wow, crap, I forgot the name that quick. No
Belly
wait,
the
don't.
Beast.
Dang,
Belly the
I didn't
Beast.
want you to tell me. I was gonna
Oh,
figure it out.
okay, no problem. No problem. No problem.
But Belly of the Beast, those
Yeah.
numbers is there too. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's people out there listening to this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, there's
Absolutely.
people out there listening to it. Also, are you on all streaming platforms? Because
Mm-hmm.
I noticed in the video, like Spotify was one of the
Yeah.
logos that came at the end.
Mm-hmm. I'm on there as well. Mm-hmm.
All right, so
Yeah.
you definitely gonna find SoulRac, right? When I tell
Mm-hmm.
you at the bottom of the screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
SoulRac music, or just put in SoulRac,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can leave out the music, you can put the music in, but I will tell
Yeah.
you, when you put in SoulRac, it's gonna come up in whatever platform you're looking for SoulRac in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can even get it on TikTok as well, so it's on there too. The music,
Right?
yes, so they get on there too.
And I will say one thing about SoulRac, right? Right, we never met in person, and it's always been virtual. I would love to chop it up with you in person, definitely.
Me too.
Yeah, but I will tell you, he is one of the most humble individuals I have ever interviewed in my life.
Oh, thank you, bro. Appreciate
Right,
that.
like super humble. And you gotta listen to his music. You gotta just understand where it's coming from and who he is. And this interview, although we have interviewed him before, we interviewed him on the spot. I think that this interview, personally, right? This is my perception. You got a more in depth of who SoulRac was, or who he is. I don't want to say was because that would be past tense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who he is and his music and who he is as a person. And I think that understanding a person as they are is super important. And I'm telling you, I don't know what, because you're in Florida, right?
I am. Mm-hmm.
Right. I don't know what part of Florida you're in, but I'm gonna find my way down there. And
Come through.
When I get down there, I'm gonna be like, yo, SoulRac, I'm
Yeah,
gonna send you a message on IG. I'll be like, yo, I'm in whatever part of Florida it is. And
Orlando, come through. Orlando,
you in
Tampa.
Orlando? All right,
yeah,
cool.
Orlando, Tampa. Yeah, just reach out to me. We'll link up.
Okay. Yeah. Because my daughter's down there. My daughter's in Orlando.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, then we gotta link up.
Yeah, one of my 50 kids.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. That's what it is.
Procreation, right?
Yeah.
The prophet name is out there, right?
Absolutely.
I procreated a lot.
Yeah.
But brother,
mm-hmm.
It has been a pleasure.
Likewise.
It has been an awakening. It has been so many things just listening to your music, man. And I just got one request.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Never stop doing what you're doing, because that's what we need. And I say it as a people. We need what you got when you go into that booth, when you sitting there and you putting that pen to the pad. That's what we need. We need it, and we need it more than ever right now.
I appreciate that. And I'm going to use that for fuel. Just in the time I get one of those moments, I'm going to reflect on this moment. So I appreciate that.
And after we get off of here, I'm going to send you my direct number.
Okay.
Yo, if you want to just chop it up, whatever.
Let's do it. Let's do it, bro.
About something, yo, you're going to have my direct number, like, for real.
Let's do it, bro. I look forward to it.
That's the way I operate.
All right. I'm down for it.
I keep it 100, and it's never no phony stuff, man.
All right. Well, I'm the same way, so we're gonna get along just fine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's real. That's real.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Again, happy Father's Day, happy Juneteenth.
Yeah.
Happy release of the EP, release of the projects, release of all that. I appreciate you, my brother. And I don't think we say that enough as Black men to each other. And I appreciate you.
And I appreciate you as well, and all of fathers. Again, happy belated Father's Day to you. Happy Juneteenth, and more importantly, I want to encourage your fan base and the people that support you. Continue to do it, because this brother's doing some positive things. He's doing something that we need, and he needs your support. And we need you to be there every time them lights turn on. You should show up and show your love for him. That's real talk,
and that's real.
Yeah.
Yo, my brother, man, I appreciate you, man. Have a good night.
Bro. You too, bro. I appreciate you.
And we out of here, y'all.
We out. Peace.
Peace. So you already know, man, it's your boy Prophet Pete from the city that never sleeps. And I know you watching and you tuned in. And I'm a goon. So tell you, shorty, I'm a coming. And we out of here, y'all. Prophet Radio, NY, the show, gang.